Hi everyone, welcome to episode 1 and 2 of Mangosteen. In this episode, I want to introduce my channel, my trading framework, and maybe some of my custom indicators that I've developed over the 8 years of experience that I have steering at the Bitcoin chart. So, Mangosteen is about the interplay of the fiat and sound monetary system. It is about sort of balancing the strengths and weaknesses of each as they go through periods of strength and periods of weakness. And if you're not sure what the fiat and sound monetary systems are, the fiat system is that human constructed system. Money is created from decree, i.e. fiat. There's a Keynesian economic principles applied. Government has a special place in society and can't really ever go bankrupt or anything like that. And then there's sound money, natural law. Money manifests naturally in the market and the best money wins. Austrian economic principles. Government really has no special privilege in the marketplace. It can certainly go bankrupt. And why mangosteens? Well, mangosteens are delicious and sort of unique. So if you haven't tried one, you should. So my trading framework constitutes of 4 key buckets: macro, cycle, level, and momentum. And the idea is that when I have these conversations with you guys on YouTube, I'll be relating it back to these 4 buckets at all times. So macro is the current state of the macro economy and the future expected state of the macro economy. We want to identify the likely monetary and fiscal impulses that are in response to the macroeconomic health that we have in the market, and define that as either favorable or unfavorable to Bitcoin. Cycle, identify where the Bitcoin cycle is. We're aware that Bitcoin goes through a roughly 4-year cycle, and there's been a lot of discussions as to whether it's going to continue or strengthen or become weaker over time. I think it will probably become weaker over time as halvenings become less important, but we do want to define ourselves as either early bear, late bear, accumulation, early bull, late bull. And those are the sort of the key aspects of the cycle that I'll be thinking about when I'm applying my trading framework. Level, identify major support and resistance levels that exists for Bitcoin at the current time, right? That is also the level of risk and whether that is a bullish or bearish case for price movements in the medium term. And then of course, momentum. And I want to introduce, we're familiar with high time frame momentums, and then we'll also introduce short time frame momentums, and we'll define those as either bullish or bearish for Bitcoin at the same time. So that is broadly my framework. I have 2 primary charts that I'll share with you. It'll be a purple chart that will cover the macro and cycle components of this framework, and we'll have a yellow chart that goes through the level and momentum aspects. And so we'll have a look at those now. When it comes to the macro and cycle component, we'll also be using supplementary graphs from other pieces of analysis given the sort of the longer term place. We'll also spend a bit more time in the yellow charts because things happen faster at the level and momentum place. So keep in mind that most of the time we'll be dealing in level and momentum, and then maybe every 3rd episode we'll go up and we'll think about the macro. So that is the framework. This is my purple macro chart, and what we can see here is the long-term view of Bitcoin that probably everyone is familiar with on a log scale. And we can see the traditional cycles of Bitcoin that we are familiar with, right? These yellow lines are halvings. Bull markets, bear markets, accumulation, bull markets, bear markets, accumulation, bull markets, bear markets, accumulation. And where we are today, a sort of a slightly accelerated bull market due to the ETF hypes, and a pattern that is forming an ascending triangle that has very recently benefited from some sentiment uplift from the rate cut that we had just the other day. And that's more or less what I wanted to cover on the macro side for now, because I think all of you are already familiar with the current macro cycle, which is we're sort of in a late bull cycle. There's some positive sentiment with the rate cut that has occurred recently. In my opinion, I think that the fiat system is probably was at the highest point of strength that it will ever be at prior to this rate cut. And I think everyone is on the other side that we're in a credit expansion cycle and interest rates will come down. I haven't seen any strong correlation with M2 money supply growing faster necessarily with reduced interest rates, but with the Federal Reserve maintaining some QT, that may hamper M2 growth a little bit. Anyway, good news basically on the macro cycle. And this ascending triangle has to sort of figure its way out by sort of mid-March, which interestingly in some other analysis I did aligns quite well with the whole 2019 fractal narrative that is currently going around in the market as well, which if you're interested in me explaining a bit more, let me know in the comments and I will do a video dedicated to that because I think it is quite fascinating and it does relate to some of the proprietary stuff that I've worked on as well. So that is the macro context, that is the macro background. Now we can go into the yellow chart. So this is my yellow chart, it's a 4-hour chart. And what we can see is Bitcoin on a 4-hour time frame, and this is that kind of that last 6 months since March this year where we had a peak and then we've been running down this ascending triangle, and then obviously in early September we had that sort of higher low, which is an exciting beginning of our pattern. And we've had a bit of a run up here, and then probably this little run up here is this sort of a sentiment driven rate cut cycle sentiment rally, which is good. So where we sit today is we still sit in a high time frame momentum, bear momentum. So if we introduce our exponential moving cross average, we can see here that the cross is negative and we're in a bearish momentum. And we can also add the 20-week simple moving average here. And what we've got is we've had our run up, we've hit the 20-week moving average, and now we're testing it for support, which is a really great sign. This is generally another sign of like a macro high time frame momentum shift, right? So we've sort of got a bounce off some resistance levels. We're now testing the 20-week moving average for support, and then we'll run up and we'll test this resistance line here, which will then like confirm whether we've left that resistance level. In the meantime, my sort of entry area was here in that sort of green dot, and I can kind of explain to you how and why I came to that decision using the Mangosteen specific SMAX indicators. So what we've got is this proprietary indicator, which is the SMAX bands. Now the SMAX bands you can see here have a pink, yellow, and green band to the price of Bitcoin. And what it does is it can generally signal a good or poor entry state for Bitcoin price. It can kind of indicate to you whether it's run up high or whether it's running quite down low. And we can see here that obviously at our peak in March, it was in the pink zone, indicative that there was some toppy behavior, and you certainly don't want to be placing any longs right now, and we might be opening ourselves up to like closing off our long positions and even potentially considering short positions. And then we've had our recent dip into the 48K range here, where the SMAX bands was indicative that the price has been stretched too low and that there was a really great buying opportunity. Now, this is not arbitrary. These bands I've developed over a number of years, and I can take you through why they're quite amazing. So this is the most recent price action, but we can see down here that the last time we entered the green clearly was at the bottom of the cycle. So we were here, we're sitting in the bottom of the cycle, and indicative of a great opportunity to enter the market, right? And then the previous time was we broke through the bands during a capitulation event, and that is the only time you'll see Bitcoin go through the bottom of the green. And so the only time it's ever goes below the green is during a bear cycle capitulation. And so that is indicative of an incredibly opportune time to buy. And had you recognized this at the time and you'd gotten in at these prices, you would have only been about $3,000 off the cycle bottom. So really, really great time to buy. And if you go back up in the previous ones, this is the 2021 bull cycle. You can see here, massive blow off top, total opportunity to get out. And then again, identifying that opportunity to get back in halfway through that cycle, but also indicative that that opportunity was extending itself, in November 2021 at that sort of peak of the market. And so I use these bands a lot to try and understand where Bitcoin is sitting in terms of its favorability on a level basis, and that forms part of my level framework. And so that is one way in which I considered entering prices here. And what I generally do is use any negative momentum through the green band in order to build up a position that's really, really strong. And then by the time you get to the bottom of the green bands, I sort of have my maximum allowable position. So that is a brief introduction to SMAX bands. It shows you how I entered in this trade here. And what we can see is that we've got that test to the 20-week moving average now. And if we bounce off that and we have a strong movement to the upside, the next point I'll be looking for is that 68K kind of range where it tests that resistance level there. So stay tuned. That is a very, very brief introduction to SMAX and to the Mangosteen channel. I have other sort of tricks up my sleeve, so please stay tuned. And I hope you found this enjoyable and insightful. And the next episode, I'll go through some of the other proprietary indicators that help me make a decision about this entry here. So if you like this content, like, subscribe. Please give me as much feedback as possible. These are my first few videos. I'm still learning. So this is your opportunity to really influence the direction of this channel. And otherwise, all the best. And thanks, everyone. Bye.